Back in school, we had art class, we had writing class, we had all sorts of different creative outlets. Maybe you did dance after school, or maybe you did private singing lessons. But these days, I feel like as an adult, you don't actually do creative stuff unless it actually is very related to your job. But for most of us, that honestly really isn't the case. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how you can increase creative aspects in your life and also how it's going to impact your neurological functioning, your mental health, and actual scientific reasons why it could help you in other areas of life as well. If this is something that interests you, or if this is something that you'd want to institute in your life, then stick around. We're going to talk about it practically and also conceptually. So, first, I've broken it up into 3 different steps of how I am doing this in my life. So, first, you want to select your options because let's face it here, we're not all going to be good at everything. I would shudder to think what a watercolor would look like if I did it. So, we all have different things that maybe resonate with us and not. So, come up with some options of the types of creative activities that you would be open to or that you might have dabbled in the past and you enjoyed. For me, that is writing, specifically creative writing. I also really like sketching, like with a pencil and a sketchbook. As a child, I was always sketching. Everywhere I went, I would bring a sketchbook with me. So those are 2 things for me. Another one actually is like comedy, something new that I'm interested in. So it could also be something that you've never tried before, but that you're interested in maybe pursuing. So I have selected my options. Then you have to create a void. And when I say a void, our days are so busy. I feel like all of us are just minute to minute we're booked. So you have to create actual time where you would be able to maybe have the freedom and just even wherewithal to do this. So for me, that is reducing screen time and scrolling substantially. So that is something that I have cut in order to create that void. Another thing is I feel like when we're drained, we often will go to technology, but if you can't go scroll, then you are just, when you're in those drained moments or maybe you're not being productive, you need an outlet. And then you're naturally going to be able to revert to these more creative and adaptive activities that maybe you would have just skipped over before. Lastly, the last step I would say is to don't schedule, but create accessibility. I think that if you schedule something creative, unless it's a class or something, that's not actually that inspirational. I don't know what the right word is, but I don't think that you're actually going to get those creative juices flowing, if you will, because it's just so boxed in. So I think that you need to create accessibility. So for example, this might be putting a sketchbook on your desk for when, I don't know, maybe it's just literally doodling when a meeting is taking your, making you really bored, and it's not you might actually focus more if you're actually kind of sketching or doodling or doing something with your hands. Or maybe it is, I know that this is kind of counterintuitive because you are technically scheduling say that you were going to go to a comedy show with a friend or something. So actually, in hindsight, that completely negates my point here. So okay, this is my hypocritical point. Give me one little wild card here, and I can't spell hypocritical today. But the point is to not force yourself into this, but to naturally create environmental cues, if you will. Okay, honestly, that's the right word here, finally. Environmental cues. So, for example, I have a notebook on my desk for if I want to do some writing, but I'm not forcing myself into it. It's kind of there, and if I'm maybe in an emotionally drained state or something like that, and I just want to kind of put pen to paper, I can. Now I'm going to talk about some of the psychology behind this and neurology as well. So in terms of neurological and physiological mechanisms, it actually promotes neuroplasticity, it being creative endeavors. So it actually builds new neuronal connections in your brain. Secondly, it strengthens brain networks. And so what this means is that it's various different parts of the brain that are working together. So it basically strengthens the pathways and the communication systems between different brain regions, which is really healthy for your overall functioning. Thirdly, it releases feel-good neurotransmitters. So if you're feeling like depressed or you're feeling like just kind of moody or something, this can actually make you feel better, just like exercise, and just like maladaptive forms of neurotransmitters, like if you're, eating sugar and you get like that sort of happy feeling after sugar, for example. Maybe this is something that you pursue instead for those kind of feel-good neurotransmitters for when you're feeling down. Next is it reduces stress hormones. So sort of related, I guess, but if you are really stressed, it can actually act as like a decompressor and make you feel just more like relaxed, more at ease, less uptight. So if that's something, if that you notice in yourself that you're like, oh my God, I'm like very, very stiff and uptight and just like stressed all the time, then this might be a great new hobby to try to combat that. Next is that it delays brain aging. So that is pretty interesting. I think that a lot of people don't worry about that till they're a little bit older. But I mean, like, hey, if you can combat that earlier in life, then that is awesome. So it actually is helping you in the long run stay sharp and stay on top of things as you grow older. It enhances problem-solving skills. So I think this is really interesting because maybe if you're like a really like into like productivity and optimization, maybe you're like, okay, well, this isn't productive. Like I could be working during this time, but being creative and pursuing hobbies like that could actually help your productivity in different areas of life, which I think is really interesting. So take some time to do like the sketching or the singing or the dancing or whatever it is, and maybe you will work faster and more efficiently when you go back to your work later. It improves memory and focus. So pretty self-explanatory, but definitely very interesting. It also fosters emotional regulation. So maybe if you're feeling a little like up and down and maybe mood swings or like we all have those days, it actually can really help for emotional regulation, especially if you actually treat it as a coping mechanism. So if you are very deliberate and like, okay, I'm feeling kind of down, I'm just gonna like take this time for myself to do this. And I think that it is a really, really good way, especially in this like new kind of tech age where we're just like always on our phones. And I feel like a lot of these like more classic habits, creative habits and creative hobbies are just like falling through the cracks, which is honestly really sad. So I thought I would make this video to bring light to this, and it's definitely something that I feel I need to foster a lot more in my life, especially given if you're really into productivity and practicality, which I am. I feel like these types of things get forgotten, so I wanted to bring light to them.